G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni National Virtual Expo. And my name is Rob Malicki and welcome to this session on Adelaide University. I'm on Garigal land in Sydney. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this incredible land on which I live and work. And before I get started, I'd like to let you know what's coming up in the next 20 minutes. But before I do that, I just wanted to say hi. If you are joining me live as part of this live stream, you can drop your questions and comments into the chat, whether that's here in the session hub or whether you're streaming via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, drop them in and I will try to get to them by the end of this session. And if you're watching on the replay, you can join the Choosing Your Uni Discord. All of the questions and all the interaction throughout this expo is happening in Discord, free to join, details in the session down below. And of course, if you're a parent, Discord, what's that? Well, it's not for everybody. We've got a Facebook community just for you guys. So you can jump in that Facebook community and ask any of your questions as well. So in the next 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about what Adelaide Uni is known for, what it's all about. We're going to hear a little bit from students, what they say about studying there. We're going to find out about its academic strengths and we're going to get into some of the hard student data. Now, it's an interesting one because Adelaide Uni is brand new. So I'm going to be mixing a little bit of data here from the old institutions, Uni of South Australia and the University of Adelaide, and talking about what that means for your potential experience at Adelaide University. So this whole National Virtual Expo has been made possible because of our major presenting sponsor, Southern Cross University. A quick word, super quick word from SCU, and then we're going to get straight into this session on Adelaide Uni.
Today's students are tomorrow's front line. Today's visionaries will become tomorrow's leaders. And today's research will discover tomorrow's solutions. For ourselves, for others, and for our world. Southern Cross University, transforming tomorrow.
All right, Adelaide University is Australia's newest university. It launched in January this year and it was formed by the merger of two very well-established and reputable institutions, the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, which were merged into a single university with roughly 70,000 students. Now, that makes it one of the largest universities in all of Australia, and it also came in on the international rankings at number 82 in the world in its first year of operation, which is pretty remarkable. So who is this uni for and who's it not for? Well, it probably isn't for you if you're looking for a university that has a track record as a single institution. Adelaide Uni, of course, has only just launched, which means some things are just being ironed out. We're talking about systems, culture, administration, and how some of those campuses actually work together. So if that uncertainty makes you uncomfortable, I should say, then it's worth knowing up front, because one thing that is guaranteed in the next couple of years is there are changes coming to the way things operate at Adelaide University. There's going to be some subject areas which move around between campuses. You're going to have changes in administration and teaching styles and all sorts of things like that. So if that kind of fluidity really bothers you, then maybe you want to check out a different institution. It's also probably not for you if you're really looking for a small, intimate university where the academics know your name. Because at 70,000 students, it's big. It's really big. So that might not work for you. And there are lots of good options around Australia that may suit you better. But, and here's the but, if you're the kind of person who finds it exciting to be part of something new, a university that's still defining its identity, but with a reputation and a research output of two extraordinary, well-established institutions behind it, then keep watching, because this institution really could line up with your interests and your goals. And of course, you can check out all the sessions from the National Virtual Expo via the session catalogue down below. We've got some incredible keynotes, everything from building your confidence and working out your money through to building a dream career and getting started in your career change. All these sorts of things are available via the session catalogue. Now, before I go any further, why don't we hear from some students that used to study at the old institutions, Uni of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, because of course these are the core histories that eventually have made up this new institution, Adelaide University.
I personally enjoy it. Yeah, there's lots of different variety and subjects you can choose, stuff like that, so I like it here.
Awesome.
I would say it's very theory-based as opposed to practical, hands-on learning, which can be a bit frustrating at times, I find.
I like the campus, how it's quite spread out in a way, but it's also quite close together.
Yeah.
It's easy to get around.
It's in the city, so it's close to the mall. People are pretty friendly.
Not really surprised, but I guess it's a lot of independent learning. It's not like the tutors will give you that much help in terms of doing your work on time, doing all your readings and stuff like that. So that's something that I didn't expect to be as kind of full on for some of my subjects.
So here are what I think about Adelaide University, and I'm going to give you three main points. The first is around research. This is an institution that has global research weight from day one. And it's not a startup university trying to figure out how to do things, how to teach students and deliver research. This is built from two extraordinary universities that are already doing serious work in just a vast range of disciplines. The Australian Institute for Machine Learning, or AIML, is one of the leading AI research centres in the country. They've got dedicated research campuses for agriculture and wine, and that's at Waite and Roseworthy. And the new institution has organised itself around 5 distinct research themes: defence and national security, health, food and agricultural sustainability, and creative and cultural strategy. So that's not a vague wish list. What the institution is doing is sending a signal about where the money and the attention are going to go. So if you're interested in any of those areas, this is a university that's really structuring itself around them. Now, the University of Adelaide was a member of the Group of Eight. The Group of Eight are Australia's leading research-intensive universities. They're sometimes called the Sandstones, typically considered the most prestigious in Australia. The old Uni of Adelaide was part of that grouping. And Adelaide University, as a new entity, is going to be part of the Group of Eight. But what's super interesting about it is that it's also bringing in the industry-focused, dynamic, innovative approach of the University of South Australia. I was a massive fan of the Uni of South Australia. It was dynamic, innovative, taught a really interesting range of disciplines, was always looking to do things a little bit new and different. And I loved the senior leadership that drove that vision. What you're bringing together are two very different institutions. Uni of Adelaide, classic, research-intensive, more theoretically focused institution, and the Uni of South Australia, dynamic, innovative, teaching focused. Bringing those together has now created a super university. It's going to take some time to settle, but I think in future this is going to be an institution that competes on a global scale. Now, another thing that I absolutely love about this institution is Adelaide itself. It's one of the most affordable cities in Australia, and to be honest, as a mainland capital city, it's like genuinely cheaper than Sydney and Melbourne. The city campus for Adelaide Uni is right in the heart of the city. We're talking about North Terrace and City West as well. It's genuinely part of that ecosystem of the city centre. And it's beautiful. So if you're thinking of moving from interstate, your money literally goes further in Adelaide than it does in other places. And hey, while we're talking about money, there's that session on school leavers' money essentials with Mandy Money, as well as a session on everything you need to know about Australian government support, funding support for university studies. Both of those in the session the session catalogue down below. So talking about that merger, the other thing I think really stands out here is just the breadth, the sheer breadth of this institution now. Over 400 degrees are now available across 6 colleges, and that's a huge range. Business, law, health, engineering, creative arts, education, science, the lot. And what they've done is designed their degrees with formal exit points, which means you can complete a certain stage of your degree, but if you don't finish the whole thing, you can still get a recognised qualification for what you've done. That's not standard across the sector, and it's genuinely student-friendly in choice. I believe the future, with the way technology is impacting things, the future is about stackable qualifications. You do this qualification, oh, the workforce has changed, I need to add this on top. Oh, I'm interested in that. Oh, I had this on top. Adelaide University is positioning itself for that stackable qualification future. And I think that future readiness is going to really be an advantage for this university going downstream. So let's get into the academic detail. The 6 colleges which I've mentioned, College of Engineering and IT, draws its strengths from those 2 preceding universities, and it's got significant depth in areas like computer science, AI, which it's very strong in, civil engineering and mining engineering. South Australia, of course, has a very large defence industries footprint, and Adelaide Uni has made defence and national security one of its 5 signature research themes. Just as an aside, if you're interested in AI, I believe everybody attending this virtual expo needs to know about how AI is impacting the workforce, how it's impacting careers, and how it impacts your experience through university. We've got some incredible sessions co-facilitated by the University of New England, which are going to help you understand what's happening to the workforce, and you'll find those in the session catalogue. The College of Health at Adelaide Uni brings together programs across medicine, nursing, allied health, and public health. Medicine at Adelaide has a super long history. The Uni of Adelaide was one of the first in Australia to admit women to medical degrees back in 1880. The merged institution inherits strong clinical training networks across South Australian hospitals and health services. So if health is your area, then this is an institution that has lots of opportunities. If we look at some of the other campuses that are part of Adelaide University, the Waite campus and Roseworthy are both genuinely distinctive. Waite is one of the largest agricultural research precincts in the Southern Hemisphere. And Roseworthy has specialist facilities for veterinary science and animal production. These aren't token regional outposts, these are purpose-built research and teaching environments. Just as an aside about that, if those are areas that interest you, some of the institutions I'd also look at, Murdoch University for veterinary science is very, very strong. I'd definitely look at that. And in terms of agriculture, the University of Southern Queensland in Queensland, as well as Charles Sturt University and the University of New England are all excellent choices. So you can look at those too. But coming back to Adelaide Uni, thinking about what's taught at Waite and Roseworthy, the food and agriculture and wine research themes tied directly into the South Australian economy. And I'm going to be honest, if you want to study wine science, this is possibly the best place in the country to do it. Charles Sturt University at Wagga Wagga perhaps being the other one that I would absolutely throw into the mix as an essential place to look. I briefly mentioned the Australian Institute for Machine Learning, which deserves its own mention as one of Australia's leading research groups, and it sits within that College of Engineering and IT. So for students interested in machine learning, computer vision, data science, having access to the caliber of research that's going on is an enormous advantage. The College of Arts, Creative Arts, Design and Humanities is interesting too. Creative and cultural strategy is one of the research themes, and that's unusual because most universities don't elevate creative disciplines to that level of strategic priority. Partly, that's from the University of South Australia's research strength in design and visual arts, and part of it's around the priority of Adelaide being a cultural capital of Australia. One of them. Now, a word of honest context here. Adelaide University launched this year, and when two massive universities merge, the full integration of systems and staff, of culture and student services, it takes time. The early cohorts of students that are part of that transition, that could be you. And for some students, that's a feature. You get to help shape things. Your feedback will literally be taken into account of how this university operates going on. For others, that might mean that things feel a bit rough around the edges going forward. So I just want you to go in with your eyes wide open. It's something that's being actively talked about. And a reminder that if you do go there and you see something that doesn't seem right to you, you should speak up. Always raise the fact that you found something that hasn't yet been considered. You're talking about huge organisations creating a single vision going forward. And so that's something that really needs your attention before you actually go in. Let's take a moment now to look at what the numbers actually say about Adelaide University. And this is really interesting because once again, we're merging two institutions and some of the numbers you wouldn't necessarily expect. A little caveat about rankings is, of course, the national rankings come from the QUILT data, the Quality Indicators for Learning and Teaching. This is an Australian government data where they've surveyed hundreds of thousands of students, employers from all over the place, and it's actual real data that you can trust about what students have said about their experience and what employers think about those graduates. The QS and Times Higher Education rankings are global rankings, and I'll say a little bit more about that in just a moment. So student satisfaction at Adelaide University sits at 77.8%. That's solid. It's above the national average, and it's ahead of several of the group of 8 universities. For context, the Uni of Melbourne, Australia's #1 institution on global rankings, sits at 73.8%, and UNSW is actually lower at 71.7%. So Adelaide is doing better than some of the biggest names on this measure. I personally think that in some of the future surveys that are going to be getting done in the next year or so, we may see a little dip to that overall student satisfaction because of that bumpiness, okay? So just bear that in mind. It may be a little bit bumpy, and if things don't quite look as smooth as they should be, the reason is the future vision. Now, when we talk about graduate employment, results from both Adelaide, Uni of Adelaide and Uni of South Australia show that graduate employment is pretty good. Around about 78% of students in full-time work 4 months after finish. Now that's middle of the pack. It's not as high as the regional universities like Charles Sturt, which hits an enormous 91 point something percent. But it is comparable to universities like UTS and the University of Melbourne. It is comparable to UTS, whereas the University of Melbourne at 67.7% is significantly lower. Employment, and this is really important because you see it all over the marketing brochures, employment is based around what people are studying and where they're studying it. If you're a student doing a practical degree like nursing or education or engineering, and you're in a regional area where there's strong demand for jobs, well, hey, employment rates are fantastic. Starting salaries are incredible. That should be no surprise. But if you are a student that's studying at a massive metropolitan university that teaches everything, including things like the creative arts, where graduate employment is harder and takes longer and the starting salaries are lower, then of course that number is lower. So always take this stuff with a grain of salt. What you can do to dive into the details is to use the Compare Ed website from the Australian government. I've got a whole session on Compare Ed that's really worth seeing with Dr. Liz Killen. And you can look into the details of literally each degree area or each macro degree area and every single university. If you want to make that even easier, the Choosing Your Uni platform allows you to do that simply by chatting with our AI agent Lumen, which it works a bit like ChatGPT, except that it's based on your interests, preferences, and goals. The platform's free to sign up for. It takes like 30 seconds, and then you'll literally get personalized, independent guidance based on your preferences, not just based on who's got the most marketing money to spend. So Choosing Your Uni platform is really worth your time. Now, when we come to median graduate salary, just as I was mentioning, this is really heavily influenced by the mix of degrees. And for Adelaide Uni, the median graduate is just about $70,000, which is respectable. It's not at the top of the table, it's not at the bottom. The unis with mining regions or with heavy nursing and health cohorts tend to report much higher numbers. The Uni of Southern Queensland, for example, comes in at $80,000, which is obviously a lot higher than 70. So the Adelaide Uni, which is Uni of Adelaide, Uni of South Australia, that figure reflects the disciplines and the fact that the South Australian job market, whilst it's not weak, it doesn't necessarily pay as high as if you're working in Sydney or Melbourne or in a pure regional area. Let's look at the global rankings now. For some people, this stuff is really important, like a big global number, a big global brand is important. And Adelaide Uni, I'm quite convinced, over the next decade, will become one of those big global brands like the Uni of Sydney and Uni of Melbourne, Monash, UNSW and the like. In its very first year, this consolidated entity has come in at 82nd in the world, which makes it 8th in Australia. The Times Higher Ed global ranking puts it at 133rd globally and 7th nationally. So these are incredibly strong positions for a university that only launched this year. But remember, global rankings don't tell you what it's like to be in your tutorial class on a Tuesday morning. What they're focused on is research output, how much research is getting done, how much that research is being cited by other researchers around the world, how many international students are there, what's the international reputation of this institution, and of course other factors as well. But it's not just in isolation about the student experience. And that's why, personally, I prefer the Quilt data to the global rankings. Now, if you do want to look at global rankings, I strongly advise that you look into the subject-specific rankings for these institutions and choose the ones that are relevant to you. Because if a uni is crap in engineering, but it's exceptional in creative arts, and that's what you want to do, well, there you've got your answer. All right, now let's talk about comparison institutions and who I would compare Adelaide Uni against if I was looking to study there. The first is obvious. It's in Adelaide, therefore we're also looking at Flinders University. Flinders has, it's smaller than Adelaide Uni. It's a single institution, of course, and it does also have particular strengths in health and medicine and engineering. So if you're thinking of studying in Adelaide, you really need to be comparing both. Interestingly, Flinders has a slightly higher student satisfaction at just about 79% and a very different campus feel. Most of the activity is out on the main Bedford Park campus rather than being in the city centre. It does have a presence in the city centre, both on North Terrace and on, I can't remember the name of the square, but in the heart of the city. But the main presence is at Bedford Park and the Tonsley Innovation District. I've got great videos on those two places. You'll find it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/choosingyouruni, where we dive deep on what makes Flinders tick. So check out that video and also check out the Flinders session as part of this National Virtual Expo. If what draws you to Adelaide University is research reputation and the breadth of degrees, UQ in Brisbane, the University of Queensland, to me is one of the nearest matches. It's ranked 42nd in the world on the QS Global Rankings, and it offers a similarly comprehensive range of degrees. There are some differences, of course, though, too. Firstly, UQ has decades of stability, it's a single institution, and Brisbane is a bigger city, which makes a real difference. Adelaide is more affordable. Brisbane probably has more opportunity in total, and that trade-off matters. UQ also has some extraordinary strengths in agricultural sciences, with one of its outer campuses at Gatton, and it also has a number of research areas that overlap with Adelaide University. So I think it's really worth a look. Another one, which might seem a little bit unexpected, is the University of Newcastle. Now, Newcastle is a research-intensive university in a mid-sized city, a couple of hours north of Sydney, but with deep ties to the regional industry. It's got a genuine commitment to access and equity, and it's ranked in the 250 to 300 band in the Times Higher Ed. But it's at a similar level of student satisfaction and strong graduate employment. So if what appeals to you about Adelaide Uni, particularly in some of those areas like health and medicine, in engineering and things like that, but you want a city that's maybe a bit even more affordable, Newcastle is really affordable. It's got beautiful beaches, surf beaches, actually not unlike Adelaide, although the surfing in Adelaide is not as good as in Newcastle. I reckon Newcastle is possibly also worth thinking about. Outside of that, if we're thinking about other institutions that may be worth a look, if you're looking over in Western Australia, UWA, the University of Western Australia, is probably the obvious choice, being a member of the Group of 8, comprehensive listing of subjects available, similar global rankings in many ways, and has some similar areas of academic strength. Once again, Perth, a very different type of city to Adelaide. Also good cost of living, more outdoors, so some overlap, but also some real differences too. Finally, I'd look across in the major places like Sydney and Melbourne. In Sydney, I reckon looking at an institution like Macquarie, which has a single campus footprint, which is different to the University of Adelaide, which has many, many campuses, but also has some very similar areas of research strength, very interesting to have a look at. And down in Melbourne, if you wanted something completely different outside of Melbourne and Monash, the kind of two really prestigious Group of 8 members, and RMIT, very interesting in the technology space, very connected to industry, might make a nice alternative. So I'd be thinking about that too. Okay, I've got a couple of minutes left, and what I'd like to do is to get to a couple of questions that got submitted in advance. So thank you to those people who submitted questions in advance of the Expo. And of course, if I don't get your question in the chat right now, it will be up in the Choosing Your Uni Discord. So you can check that out and the Facebook community for parents as well. So here we go. This is a really good question from a prospective student in Adelaide itself. Adelaide Uni is now the new merged uni. Does that mean my degree will say Adelaide University, or will it still reference the old University of Adelaide? If you're enrolled at Adelaide University, your degree will be awarded by Adelaide University. That's the new institution. It's fully accredited. Employers will recognise it, and that's what's going to be on your degree. But maybe to some way it's even got this advantage. It's got that legacy, that history of the Uni of Adelaide and Uni of South Australia. So I think that's kind of special. The second question, this is a really good one, and it's about, is it worth my son moving interstate? It's a parent question, there we go. Is it worth my son moving interstate for uni, or should he just stay local? I think moving interstate can be genuinely life-changing. It's going to force more independence. It's going to broaden people's network. It's going to help people to grow up faster. It's going to help them to understand different things in the world. Of course, it's not for everybody. The financial cost is real. So if you want to move out of home or move interstate, then you've got additional costs that you won't have if you're, for example, living at home. You've got accommodation, you've got living expenses, whether that's transport or food, that can't just be kind of accumulated into the household. So depending on what you're looking to study, that may be a great choice if there's something specific that you want to study at an interstate university or a regional university, but it may also be redundant if the course that you want to do is available just down the road. Now, what I would say about interstate study, and in fact, we've got a whole series of sessions from the Uni of Tasmania about moving interstate for study, and we talk about some of the logistics and the advantages and the disadvantages, so details in the session catalogue, is that, you know, if you want to have the whole university experience, you want to live on campus, you want to experience clubs and societies, you want to be part of that whole environment, and you can afford it. Personally, I'm a big advocate of moving interstate for uni. Like, take Tassie as an example. An amazing place to live. If you love the outdoors, you should move to Tasmania. It's extraordinary. If you don't like the heat, Tasmania, extraordinary. As well as having all of the offerings of a small capital city. So yeah, you should go and do that. But it's about knowing yourself and what is going to be best for you, what kind of experience you're looking for. Once again, just to wrap up this session, you can chat with, like, literally our Choosing Your Uni AI in order to narrow down those choices that really do align with you, not based on who's spending that marketing money. That's all I've got time for. I'm going to get back to those questions in the Choosing Your Uni Discord. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you at another session as part of this National Virtual Expo. My name's Rob Malicki. Have yourself an awesome day. Well, I hope you got something out of this session, and if you have any questions at all, you can head to choosingyouruni.com and ask Lumen. Lumen is your AI guide who knows about every university, every pathway, every option that we've talked about throughout this virtual expo, and Lumen is available to talk to you 24/7, so it's ready when you are.